So with that, I'll open the floor for the discussion, but I will begin with, where is he? Is he gone? There was one of us who... Yeah, K. Harris. I will come back to the questions on the chat, but K. Harris, please, your question.
Thank you. And I really want to thank all the speakers for the various points that have been raised. I think my question goes to Dr. Amara. I really appreciate speaking to us in the spirit of conversation and reacting to some earlier critiques of our work. While I recognize the importance of personhood in bioethics discourse and transhumanism in particular, I wonder whether what we really need in African engagement on transhumanism is the multiplicity of personhood categories, such as we have in Jonathan Shim-Makonam's conversational personhood that someone spoke to, or technologized personhood in Amara Shim-Makonam's coinage, amongst many other conceptions of personhood in African philosophical space. I doubt that this is what we really need at this point. Rather than focus largely on the question of compatibility of transhumanist biotechnologies within these different conceptions of personhood in Africa, which may have less policy and advocacy implications, perhaps we begin to channel more energies: who designs, who owns, who governs enhancement biotechnologies within the African...
Excuse me to cut in here, please. We can't hear you clearly.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I said, instead of focusing our energies, right, our intellectual energies on the different conceptions of personhood and how, whether they are compatible with transhumanist biotechnologies having their ways through into Africa, I think we may perhaps begin to channel more energies on who owns, who designs, who governs enhancement biotechnologies within the African social and political border spaces. And that boils down largely to what the last speaker talked about, which is what should we Africans be doing, okay, with the power dynamic.
Can you summarize your question, please?
Yeah. So that question is, what should we be doing, okay, with the power dynamics in global biopolitics? Should we be consumers or co-creators or adapters? I think that is what we need to think more, in my own humble submission. Thank you.
Okay, Amara, please hold on. Note that question, because there is another question for you on the platform. So I'll read it so you take them together. Okay. So the first question is from Carlo. Is morality not part of the ontological foundations of our species as a human person? Since we don't exist, I guess, in isolation, but a product of culture, how do we solve this problem in the age of digital subculture at the twilight of 21st century? That is the second. And the third, there is a notion that technology is part of culture or is human second nature and has been part of being human from the very onset. So shouldn't moral enhancement using technology be understood as simply a continuation of cultural processes? That is from Abdul. So please address these questions as quickly as possible. Thank you.
You are muted.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for this question. So I will start with Fayemi's question. I think I have to disagree with you on your claim that we should focus on the governance aspects of enhancement technologies. Why I want to disagree with you on this is not that the political governance of human technology is not important. I disagree with you on this because personhood is part of the core values of African culture, of what makes us African. And if we are to contribute our African perspective to the discourse of transhumanism, I think personhood should play a role. Yes, I know you made mention of us not multiplying entities beyond necessity, especially when it comes to personhood. But you should know the fact that my concept of technologized personhood is different from Chimakunam's idea of complementary personhood or even the Afro-communitarian personhood. I coined technologized personhood to capture the type of personhood that a morally enhanced persons would attain, which is different from the type of personhood that is obtainable within the African philosophical context. So let me leave it at that. We'll have more discussion on this if there is still time. So I will go to question number 2. I will say that question, conflicts, culture and morality. Why do I say so? If we tie culture and morality together, it means that individuals will not have will not be justified to speak up when there is a culture that is not good. Like, for example, during the time of the clean or during the time of slave trading in Africa, because it is seen as a norm, you don't have the right to speak against it because it is tied to morality. But that is not the case. In as much as there is a bit similarity between morality and culture, there are also a huge difference between them. And coming to the culture within the technological age, I don't really get that last question. Can you read the last question for me, please? I can't hear you. Sorry.
It says there is a notion that technology is part of culture. So that technology is also culture. Or is human second nature. Maybe technology is human second nature. So shouldn't moral enhancements using technology be understood simply as a continuation of the cultural process?
Okay, no, it's not that question that I was answering. It's the first one, the one by Carlo.
Yeah,
so Carlo is asking about is morality not part of the ontological foundations of our species as a human person? Okay, so since we don't exist in isolation, but a product of culture, how do we solve this problem in the age of digital subculture at the twilight of 21st century?
I think I have addressed the first part of the question. Then coming to the second part, addressing it in the 21st century. I think yesterday, Chrissy talked about education-based enhancements. So is another way of addressing this issue within the 21st century without recourse to radical enhancement of our moral capacities. The problem here is not that we can't use technology or technology is not part of us. The problem here is using technology beyond the human species typical limits. And I will stop at this point. Then I will go to Abdul's question. Now, I understand Abdul's question when you within the literature on transhumanism, there has been this posthumanists like is it not Donna Haraway who that wrote a book on a cyborg manifesto, and recently Stephen Sona wrote a book on We Have Always Been Cyborgs, where they try to say that we and technology, there is no much difference. In fact, we are all cyborgs. But it boils down to what I have been saying. We need to actually differentiate between using technology to keep us within the human species normal limits and transcending it. My own taking this is that technology should be used to improve our life, to improve our well-being and rest of them, but it should not be used to, turn us to something else, like the transhumanists envision through the radical enhancement of our moral capacities to turn us to become posthumans. Now, this posthumans I'm talking about is different from the posthumanism of Donna Haraway. The posthumans I'm talking about are the ones that have radically enhanced themselves, that they become new species. And that is the point here. Okay, let me stop at this and not take much of our time. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Amara. Just a quick comment on the question you answered earlier about. I'm just adding. I'm not asking you a question because the argument was being consumers, being adapters, or being leaders. I would say that before you know what you are leading or what you are adapting to or what you are consuming, the primary why it is important for us to clear our stand conceptually in terms of what we are, what we believe, or what drives our existence. It is important for us to be clear on that before we'll be able to participate in any way at all. So if you have no idea of who you are, if you have no idea of your identity, it will be hard for you even to know where you are going or to what extent you want to adapt or you do want to participate. And that is why I think it is very important for us to clear this conceptual understanding or to remain and defend it, what we mean by being a person or being a human being. But I think there is a problem with the second answer or the second question, because here we are working with a common understanding of culture. So culture, where culture has been defined by the hegemonial perspective. So culture is like something that is solid. Culture is like something, culture is an evolvement. Culture evolves. Whether it is evolving with technology, whether it is evolving with other kinds of ideas. So, but it is not something that is fixed, as somebody who is involved in teaching culture and in that sense, you realize that what we call culture is what has shaped us in the past, and it becomes a norm. But we need to interrogate these norms. Once we interrogate them and engage with it, it will change over time. This is applicable to technology. If technology has assumed a culture, we need to interrogate it. The moment it starts impacting on our existence and subsistence in the future. Therefore, to say morality, that we as moral agents is the same thing as we as cultural agents, I don't agree, because the culture evolves from moment to moment understanding of what morality is. Come and think of it. When you think of killing twins as something that is moral, that is an obligation, that we need to kill the twins, but you realize later that it is wrong, so you engage with it. So there is an ontological, I believe, part of that morality, but culture itself is what emerges from time to time investigation of what should be morally binding on the people or ethically binding on the people. So I wouldn't want to push that forward. Wole is raising his hand. Please, Wole, your question. And please, myself and all of us should make our questions, comments very brief. Thank you. Wole, please.
All right, thank you very much. Very interesting conversation we're having here this morning. I just want a bit of a clarification. Perhaps you alluded to it in what you just said. To what extent do we really separate the culture from the morality of the people and by extension the technology? Because I had something that the previous speaker mentioned, saying that the technology may not may be cultural, as if it is something alien. But I know that our own people, despite how undeveloped the technology is, there's still a technological trend tied to the culture of my own people. I don't know if that aligns with the thought of the previous speaker. Thank you.
Amara, do you want to respond, or should I expand my comments?
Okay, I think I have something to say on this. So when you talk about technology, we actually create these technologies to improve our lives. And that is what I think, to improve our well-being, to improve our state in life. Yes, during our interaction in our society, technology becomes a part of our life. But we should not forget the fact that we are the creators of these technologies. And these technologies should not, what will I say, take over our lives. There's there's a difference here. So in as much, look at how technology has improved from the early man to this 21st century. We are not talking about artificial general intelligence. We are talking about artificial intelligence and rest of them. So, and that is how also our culture has also improved. But just like Christine noted why during her own when she was commenting, is that we bring in morality to interrogate these things. We are talking in this conference, we are interrogating human biotechnological enhancements. Biotechnologies, we are interrogating it because of morality. So I will not want to, for me, say that morality and culture and technology are all the same. No, for me, morality is a tool that we use to interrogate these things, and that is it. Thank you.
Just to follow up on your response, Amara. Now let's make a distinction. I like to make distinctions. Let's look at culture. This thing we call culture. Generally, it has been defined as a way of life of a people. This way of life, is it breeding? When we talk, let's talk about things that are fundamental to existence. Breeding, that we breathe air or we eat. But the food we decide to eat is a matter of choice and context. So if somebody who is living in a desert have no access to some kind of food that grows in a vegetative area, this food will now respond to the need, the hunger need. So where does the culture lie? This food will become, this particular kind of food will be now called a culture, all right? But the hunger itself is not a culture because it is fundamental to our human existence. And that food will differentiate itself from a food that is eaten in every other place where it doesn't exist. So a way of life of a people, like Amara said, we create culture. We create culture. But morality, I mean, we can differentiate between morality and ethics, of course. So morality is fundamental, it's ontological. It's something that drives me, within me to differentiate right and wrong. But don't forget, the context of growth and development, the exposure in the society will shape how you make judgment of right and wrong. But the right and wrong is always there. What is right is always right. What is wrong is always wrong. I mean, within a particular context. Technology is what is created. Like the example I gave with food. You can imagine that people are farming with their hands, like in the old age. And after some time, they develop a hoe or a machine, and that machine becomes a technology. People will say that technology has become the culture of those people because they're using it. No, because at some point it's going to disappear when an advanced technology appears. So it is human creativity. Culture is human creativity. Technology is human creativity. Morality is what guides the human being. But then we have a problem when we conceive what makes us humans. It is only in that moment that we make the distinction. So there is a distinction between morality and culture and technology, because culture and technology is what human beings create, whereas morality is part of the existential, is the existence, what makes the human beings, exist to defend themselves, protect themselves. And this morality can be, broken down to making some rules, but these rules are made. maybe that is why we are getting this mixed up, because we break down rules. And these rules that we break down becomes a norm. And once they become a norm, they become a culture. We think they are culture, but they are also changeable because they are also product of the human person. So to say that technology is the same thing as being human, as like technology is part of the ontological meaning of what it means to become human. No, technology is human creation. Culture is human creation. And interaction, what exists, how we manage our relationship is also our creation, of course. So it is important for us to know these distinctions and know that our own creation can be to our own disaster. In the case of artificial intelligence, we should know the boundaries. We should know what should apply and what shouldn't. I think that is the main object of the discussion that Amara presented. Thank you. So any other questions? Let me not take the place of the discussants. Please, we need any questions I'm missing? No? Anybody else who wants to ask questions? We had 3 or 4 big presentations. So please, your comments, your questions are welcomed.
I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Okay, I actually admire your distinctions. That's great. It helps us to understand the topic very well. My question is, if culture is human creation and technology is human creation, and to some extent, morality helps us to distinguish or interrogate these. Is now that aren't we, to some extent, creating humans, creating what it is to be human, deciding what it is to be human? Isn't that becoming a human creation? Even at the, even though it may not be large at the moment, but with all this IVF and genetic modifications and people design babies and all that, isn't what it is to be human being a human creation now?
Amma, do you want to comment? Or any of the speakers, please? We all are engaged in this discussion. So any comments? I don't want to dominate the discussion. I know the question is directed at me, but let's all participate.
Okay. Do any of the other speakers want to go? Should I go first? Carlo, do you want to go first?
Yes, I would want to say something. Thank you so much. Although, okay, I'll start by saying that it was Justice Seaver who said that to be human is to be transhuman. I think the original idea behind transhumanism, as outlined by Natasha Vita-Moore, was to use science and technology to transcend human deficiencies or biological deficiencies. It's not it doesn't negate the ethical dimension, just as Christy mentioned, questioning the advancement. It doesn't negate questioning the advancement, and it doesn't also negate the culture of the users of the technology. It doesn't negate them. So I think Christy made a very good distinction there, which is supposed to guide the question that you've just asked now. That's my own submission. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I have something to say, and thank you for your question. It was very thought-provoking. So let's start with the evolutionary process here. According to the transhumanists, they said that chance-guided evolution. By chance-guided evolution, it means nature-guided evolution. It has created human beings that are not perfect. Look at what old age does to us, disease does to us. For example, so many people are dying of cancer, which I sincerely sympathize with them. There are no medications that could save those that are terminally ill with cancer. This is the handwork of chance-guided evolution. But the good thing that chance-guided evolution has done for us is to develop us to that stage where we will, use our intelligence to create other human beings, to perfect our own creation. That is why someone like Nick Bostrom will say that we are a work in progress. Someone like Simon Young will say that it is time for us to restore creation from the, hands of nature into our own very own hands. And that is the vision, that is the aim of transhumanism, to create a perfect human being. So you are right. I do not key into that transhumanist vision of creating transhumans. Transhumans are entities that have integrated themselves with technology, thereby becoming half human, half technology. Or their vision of posthumans, that posthumans are super intelligent moral beings that are no longer humans but another species. So and that is the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Amara and Carlo, for the intervention. And just shortly, what I will add to the discussion, this question. I mean, it boils down to the existing anthropological question: what does it mean to be human? At what point do we start to become humans? And at what point do we become human non-humans? I mean, if I could use that word, what is it that is concrete? What is it that is at the core of our existence? And when we follow the Western philosophical development of anthropological questions in regards to that, we are rational beings, we are beings that make choices, and on all those kind of thoughts, and compare it to what Africans understand as what it means to be a human being and to exist, is a fundamental question. I'm not saying that my answer is going to be the best answer, but what I have realized is that if what Aristotle said, that we are social beings, is correct, and if what Africans argue, that we are relational beings, that we are complementary beings, and that we are beings that are situated in context, okay? And if we think that solidarity is meaningful, and if we think that co-independency, interdependency in our existence as humans is possible, then it is only because we are vulnerable beings. Vulnerability doesn't mean that we are weak, but vulnerability in the sense that we are limited. It is only in coexistence that we are complete. Our perfection does not lie in technological enhancement. Cognitive enhancement, living 200 years alone in the world, will still be vulnerable. Living without sickness, but isolated from other persons, other human beings, all right? One will say, of course, that technology can make us to be connected, just like when you use a wire to connect one end of a system to another system. We have to also look at the implications of the wiring. I think one of the transhumans' argument is that we are wired from the beginning, like electricity wired in our bodies. So I don't want to go deep into that argument. My point is, what is it that makes us human is a fundamental question. Whether the Western transhumanist or African transhumanist, we need to go back and visit that question, that what it is that makes us human. From my perspective, if this whole idea, if this whole notion of being human is correct, it is only because we are vulnerable. And our vulnerability, which the technology wants to remove, will definitely remove us from being humans. So post-human, transhuman is no longer human. So long as that post is there, so long as that trans is there, it is no longer human in the sense that we meant. Thank you. And I don't know, somebody wrote something on the chat. Oh, sorry. So he says paleontology topological perspective, tool making and use shape the transition from pre-human to human. Technology made us humans. It is rather nebulous trying to separate humans from technology. And as technology evolves, so do we. The concept of human is never fixed. And so the transhuman can simply mean the human of the future. I mean, I cannot argue against what is written here, but I can argue against some of the conclusions. You still say paleontology, so you pre-human, all right? You say pre-human, and then like we have pre-human, and then we have human, and then post-human. So where does the distinction? If the pre-human made the humans, what will the post-human make? So the human make the post-human, and the post-human will make the post-human, and the post-human will make the post-human, or the advanced human, or the spiritual human, or some alien in one place. So there will be it continues infinity. The fundamental thing, whether it is pre-human, it is a human being that developed that technology to advance his existence, to make life easier for him. That it developed that systems to make life easier for him. Do not mix up what he is in himself, fundamentally and ontologically. All other things, all other creativities is just to, like Amara indicated, is to make life easier. But then the question is, at what point should they stop? At what point are they interfering with their fundamental existence? At what point are they, trying to even damage that which they want to advance? Carlo, you raised your hand.
Thank you so much. I don't know if this is allowed. Just wanted to check in something. Permission, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think I tried to struggle with the whole acceleration, the attempt to really accelerate the human enhancement. So when I coined the term Afro longevity and started working around the Afro longevity, I realized that there are core longevity divides that we really need to ask a very important question about who control what, and the bio war and all that. I've forgotten the person that asked the question. There are important things that we are actually missing out that is really affecting our health expectancy and life expectancy. And one of those is our immediate, the fast moving out from our biodiversity, forgetting genetic nutrition, forgetting things like evolutionary nutrition, ketogenic diets, and adapting quickly with Western diet, which is even causing the biological degeneration. And if we leave this foundation and rushed into augmentation, we're going to have a serious problem with that sharp leapfrog, and thereby augmenting with a weaker biology, augmenting a stronger technology with a weaker biology, then changing us from human to something, just like Christy mentioned, when she tried to explain at what point must we stop. We now change from what I think it was Izuma Saloniocha that talked about human person, human animal, human machines, and human. He tried to categorize all those things in his idea of personhood. So I think we should focus more on being biologically well and doing the basics with our human biology than rapidly talking about augmentation when the core foundation of our existing our biology is very weak. And so, and what brought the idea of Afro longevity was looking into the life expectancy gap, looking at the life expectancy gap and what we need to do to bridge the biological life expectancy gap before talking about the augmentation. So, and lastly, we also need to understand that technology is an enabler, not the driver. Thank you.
You are muted, Chrissy.
So I said, I think we'll be rounding up the session to go for break.
Please,
We'll
I have a comment, please.
Yeah,
Just a
we'll
quick
listen.
one.
Yeah, we listen to you, and then after that, please, we'll need to take a short break for the second session. The discussion can continue. Amara, please.
Okay. Regarding Abdul's comment on the chat box. So he says that technology made us human. I don't really understand what he meant by that, because it is humans that made technology and not technology that made humans. So, and another thing I find problematic about his comments is his conclusion, just like Christine noted, where he says that transhumans could simply mean the human of the future. So, the idea of transhumans, according to within the context of transhumanism, is to make us to integrate more with technology. Someone like Ray Kurzweil and Nick Bostrom, Venovench will talk about mind uploading, that a time that technology would develop so well that we'll now get to the stage that we could upload our minds, our memories and personalities into a supercomputer and live like software angels. If this becomes the case, at what point could we say that Amara that was existed in 2025, for example, is still the same Amara in that supercomputer? So you find that you have this problem of identity, and I'm wondering what Abdul will say on this. Thank you very much.
You are muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I think it's a very huge discussion here. I mean, we cannot digest all of them, but it's good that they are all coming up, leaving us with a lot of internal questions and reflections as we come back for the next session. So please, we should be back here by 12:05. That means